Hello, my name is Tosca Bruno van Vijwijken, and I am at the Transnational NGO Initiative at the Maxwell School at Syracuse University. And this afternoon we're here with Derick Brinkerhoff, who is Distinguished Fellow of RTI International. He'll be explaining us in a moment what that is all about. Thank you very much, Derick, for agreeing to be interviewed by us today. In this short interview, I would like first to find out what is the nature of your research and how does it relate to the field of civil society, transnational, as well as domestic NGOs?
Well, I'd say what I do research on relates largely to the relationship between NGOs and government, and more secondarily to the private sector. So it's sort of what is the space that NGOs occupy within state and market and society. And that's been the focus of much of my research.
I see.
Over the years.
Okay, so that's the particular angle that you're primarily interested in. Yeah. Now, RTI International, what is the mission of RTI International, where you are currently based, and how does RTI International relate to this field of work and research about NGOs and civil society?
RTI is a multidisciplinary research institution based in the state of North Carolina, and the overall mission is to improve the human condition, which gives you a rather broad arena to operate in, and so that's kind of the defining metric for the work that RTI does, and that's a combination of hard science, mostly related to health and medicine, but some in environmental science as well. But the area that I'm in the International Development Group, we, along with a social science group that works domestically, essentially look at policy issues and institutional issues. So the bulk of what the International Development Group does is not just research, but I'd say more directly is implementation of international development programs and projects on the ground.
Now, I have to follow up for a moment. When you say that RTI International's mission is to improve the human condition, how do you, as a large organization, try to assess yourself against that mission?
Well, the president uses that mission statement as a way to examine the kinds of activities that the organization does from the sort of broad perspective, and that's why I say the mission gives you kind of a relatively large arena for defining what that means, and certainly I think on the health and medical angle, it's maybe a lot easier to make those connections than, say, in some of the international development work, where figuring out if your institutional development program or working with civil society organizations is actually improving the human condition or not.
Yeah. How did you first become interested in international civil society actors and activism?
Well, I'd say my initial focus was an analytic one in working with Yale University's program on nonprofit organizations, doing a comparative study of organizational effectiveness measures in public, private, and nonprofit organizations. Then in a lot of my work overseas involved NGOs. I'd say one of the most formative ones was when I was doing a training program on project design in what's now the Democratic Republic of the Congo, but it was Zaire at the time, for faith-based organizations. And we did a series of training programs around the country, Kinshasa, Lubumbashi, and Bukavu, and just seeing the dedication, commitment of people at the grassroots to try to improve lives for their community members was very inspiring, and that had a big impact on my interest in nonprofits and the nonprofit sector.
I see. Now, knowing that we here in the Transnational NGO Initiative, the name suggests it, focus primarily on transnationally operating NGOs, so NGOs that work internationally or at least across national boundaries. Within your field of research, what core challenges do you see transnational NGOs having to address at the moment?
Well, certainly one that your initiative focuses on, which is the whole accountability dimension, Who do NGOs represent? How are they held accountable? What sort of metrics do they use to judge their own activities? Clearly now, I mean, and international NGOs are major players in international development, relief, and humanitarian assistance. And so, given that, I think their importance is not just in terms of the services they deliver, but also from the policy perspective. Some people see them as an interest group among themselves, that they not just provide services, but they actively advocate on behalf of their role in international development.
I see. What other areas of research do you see? Oh no, let me rephrase. Which areas related to transnational NGOs, their role in global governance, their effectiveness, etc., do you find are under-examined in terms of the scholarly agenda? Where do you feel more research would need to take place, because there are many things we don't know?
Well, I think one of the areas that is of interest to me, as I said, given my focus on what's the relationship between NGOs and government and the private sector, is what's called in the literature sector blurring, which refers to the different sectors taking on the qualities and agendas of other sectors. And so this comes out in the NGO world by people who look at NGOs and say, oh, they're becoming much too corporate, they're becoming much too like government, and what is being lost. On the other hand, people look at government and saying, well, they're becoming too much like private sector, the whole push back on seeing citizens as customers. I think, some of the Thatcherite and Reaganite type ideas have been, I think, revisited and found to be sort of missing something in terms of the state. I'm not sure those are necessarily under-researched, but I think maybe they're kind of an ongoing feature of what it means to be an NGO. If you see from the NGO perspective that other sectors are now either claiming or taking on the qualities that you think of as your distinctive ones, I think that's definitely an issue.
I see. So it's, your last sentence is really your concern, or at least the issue that you find interesting to research.
Yeah.
To what extent this can lead to the blurring of identity can also lead to maybe to a threatening of.
Well, I mean, one
position?
area that's been talked about is the extent to which this threatens the very mission of the NGOs. Are they still doing what they say if they're tailoring what they do to fit with government agendas who provide the funding, or to tailor their messages in ways that are, compatible with government policy? I mean, in what sense are they then different if they are essentially seen as an outreach of government in terms of service provision?
Yes. Yes, so that's where the blurring comes in,
Yeah.
indeed. In terms of forecasting, and this will be my last question, what is the one issue, if I can press you for a moment, that you feel is critical for transnational NGOs to address in the medium to long term, particularly what organizational challenges will that issue pose for those types of NGOs?
I think that transnational NGOs today are facing something of a crisis in the sense that as Southern NGOs grow in capacity, number, and voice, there's increasing questioning of where do transnational NGOs fit in. Their traditional role of intermediaries between donors and Southern NGOs is, I think, being increasingly called into question as to whether they are really needed And I think that this is, if not an identity crisis, at least something that transnational NGOs need to think about. What is their value added? What is the niche that they're fulfilling relative to the growth of the civil society sector in the global south?
Right. Yes, thank you. I want to thank you very much for coming to the Moynihan Institute, to the Transnational NGO Initiative, and I wish you success in the next phase of your research. Thank you.
Thanks, Jessica.